and welcome to the Boxing Day edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where you can see it is snowing on my screen, and this is because Sven, the programmer we work with to create this wonderful software we can play the puzzles in, has made it snow festively. I love this. I think the snow goes away if I click the screen. I'm sort of loath to do that, but there, it just stops. Lovely touch there from Sven. Anyway, what have we got for you today? Well, a puzzle I'm going to attempt with some trepidation. This has been requested a lot by many of you because no one seems to be able to solve it. It's called Antimatter, and it's by Nahileon. I've realised I've got the wrong glasses on. That's not going to help me to solve, is it? Now, Nahileon is an absolutely stellar setter. And this puzzle seems to have a penguin in it in the middle of the grid. But other than the penguin, I'm noticing it is incredibly symmetrical with two diagonals as well as this weird sort of wren band pattern around the edge of the grid. I think this is going to be monstrous. It's got 5 stars out of 5 on Logic Masters Germany. I did look it up there. Well, the comments say it's brilliant. I would expect nothing less. But this could be a long video. We shall see in a moment or two. What do I have to tell you about first? The big news, the Sudoku event of the season, of the year, is the Phistomefel Sudoku Hunt, which we have given as a Christmas present to all our patrons over on Patreon to say thank you for your support. The feedback we've been getting has been absolutely incredible. People have been losing their minds over the last puzzle. Let me put it like that. But very well done to the following who have solved the whole thing. So well done to John Corbett, Peter Venus, Matt Boss, Kelvin Graham, Megan Swanson, Jim Davis, Kapateki, Lady Ruatha, Peyton Lee, Joe Chang, and Woo Sung Young. All of you sent in the correct entry, and I know how hard you've had to work to do that, so very well done. Anyone else manages it, they will get a shout out on the channel. But we've got a couple of special birthdays today, really special birthdays. Marissa, you've turned 21 today. What a day to turn 21 on Boxing Day. I know this because your sister Lexi wrote to us. And Marissa, I hope you have a brilliant day full of, well, chocolate cake. It's fine. It's fine to go back to chocolate cake now Christmas Day is past. You don't have to have Christmas cake. And also Pedro has turned 50 today. So we've got a 21st birthday and a 50th birthday. And Pedro wanted me to shout out all of our Portuguese viewers, which I'm very happy to do. Portugal is a country I love visiting. I have been there on holiday a few times, mainly to play golf, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. So Pedro, I hope you're able to enjoy a fabulous 50th birthday with lots of cake. Other than that, the only other thing to mention is the Cryptic Scriptures of the Secret Snake Society, which was our December monthly reward. I've got more names to read out for correct solves of the whole thing. So very well done to Jeffrey Byrne, Thomas Berent, Will Searcy, Michael Lieberman, Steve Tredigio, Scott in New York, Justin Califf, David Fink, Ben Hawker, who lamented the fact that he's a professional singer and apparently Christmas is the most busy time of the year, but he has still managed to find time to polish off all of those puzzles. So that's brilliant work, Ben. Belinda Lomini, Bernhard Schlickner, who I actually proposed on behalf of to his, fiancée, Kirsten, and he sent me a picture of their wedding, and I think he's going to follow it up with a picture I might be able to share with you guys. So that is definitely a first for Cracking the Cryptic. I'm very, very chuffed to have been involved in that. Mew Rocks, Robert Dahlstrom, Brandon Sheepdude Williams, and Marcus Sokol. All of you sent the correct entries in. Brilliant work. Now, let's have a look at Antimatter. The rules are fairly short and sweet, although there is a twist on these green lines. Let me explain. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits may not repeat on either of the main diagonals marked in blue, so this diagonal here has to have the digits 1 to 9 once each on it, and so does that other one. Digits on each purple line form a set of non-repeating consecutive digits which can appear in any order. So if we worked out that cell was a 1, then we would know these two cells would have to be a 2 and a 3, because the line overall must contain a consecutive set of digits without repeats, and the digits can be in any order. So we could do 1 2 3 or 2 1 3 like that, or 3 1 2 or 1 2 3, etc., etc. Now here's the weird rule: neighbouring digits on a green line have a difference of at least 5, or a sum of at most 5. So normally green lines are so-called German whispers, and digits have to be 5 apart at least, adjacent digits on the line. But here it's turned on its head somewhat. So let's just think about this. If this was a 2, normally we would say that on a normal German whisper this would have to be a 7, 8 or a 9, but here it could be a 7, 8 or 9, or it could be a small digit. It could be a 1 or a 3 as well, because they would add up to at most 5. So the only digits it couldn't be are, if it was a 4, these would not be 5 apart and they would add up to more than 5, so they would break both constraints. So it's a serious weakening of the German whisper constraint, and I have no idea what that does or why we need a penguin in the grid to help us, but do have a go. Nahileon's puzzles are absolute masterpieces. It's called Antimatter. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I'm just pondering why it's called Antimatter when it's got a penguin in it. Someone will have to explain to me, because I don't know. And now, well, now we're faced with many decisions. Do we investigate green line? I'm tempted not to investigate the green line, because as I was doing that example, I realised the constraint here, normally with a German whispers line. Oh, actually, no, hang on. You can't put 5 on one of you still can't put 5 on a green line, because the second digit's impossible. Wow, okay. So although this is a softening of the whisper constraint, it's not a softening enough that 5 could appear on the line. So normally we can't put 5 on a German whisper, because the next digit would have to be 5 away, and that would take us either to 0 or to 10, or lower or higher than those digits, which won't work. But here we can't put 5 and 0 on the line. So as this digit has to be positive, it still has no possibility. Right, so 5 in the central box then can't be on the penguin. So there is a 5 in one of those 3 cells. Okay, and there must be a 5 on the corner purple lines as well. So yeah, okay, if we look at these, there's immense symmetry here. But if we look at those cells there, I slightly softened my blue as well, by the way, last night. So I hope that that's better. I also softened my green as well. That's still a bit bright, isn't it? But anyway, let's use softened blue. Now, we know that each of these lines is a set of 5 consecutive digits, which we're going to have to slice, aren't we? If we imagine the digits 1 to 9 lined up in front of us, and we slice 5 consecutive digits somewhere along that line, we're always going to have a 5 in the slice. And we can see that because if we start with 1, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so the 5 gets in. If we start with 9, we're going to have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and the 5 still gets in. So the 5 is always in. So now the 5 can't now... Well, actually, I was going to say the 5 can't go in the corner here, but this is a... But I think there's still a problem with a 5 being there, isn't there? Or am I going crazy? Let me just think about this for a moment. My gut is telling me you can't put 5 in the corner of this puzzle. Yeah, you can't, can you? Or can you? Hang on. I'm now questioning myself. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because there is an absolute requirement to have a 5 on each of these lines, and therefore you're going to run out of space in the other corner. Yeah, I was trying to do it in a different way, but the simpler way is to focus. If we try and put 5 in any corner of this puzzle, the 5 on this line is now going to be in that little domino. The 5 on this line is going to be in this little domino, and this little 5-cell line now cannot have a 5 on it at all. So that doesn't work. So that means, or what does that mean? I don't know actually. Well, it means that we're going to have chasing dominoes going around the grid. So imagine the 5 on this line, which we know is now not in the corner. Imagine it was in one of those 2 cells. Then on that blue line it'll be there, on that blue line it'll be there, and on that blue line it'll be there. Right, goodness me, sorry. I think I've eaten too much brandy butter or something. My brain is slow. Okay, so the question I should be asking is, where does the 5 go in box 5, believe it or not? Because if we have this arrangement of 5s, if the 5s are in those dominoes, let's investigate what we know about the 5 on the negative diagonal. It must be there somewhere. But yes, I mean, it's actually really obvious now. I'm just being, so slow. I can't believe it. Anyway, but you can now see, because it can't be in those 3 cells and it can't be in those 3 cells, it must be in one of those 3 cells. And exactly the same logic applies on the positive diagonal, although we'd actually already locked it into one of those 3 cells already because of the penguin. So the only cell that's going to meet the 2 criteria of being in those 3 and those 3 simultaneously is this cell. And obviously, if we try and put the 5s here, we're just going to get an analogous set of dominoes. We're still not going to be able to put 5s in any of these cells, so we're always going to be hunting for a 5 in one of those 3 cells in box 5. So we actually get a digit, which is quite surprising. There is a 5 in the middle of the grid. Now, okay, here's another thought then, which strikes me as at least worthy of investigation. If we look at the 3 lines in the center, so let's look at these lines now. Oh god, goodness, I'm just trying to get the right colours to balance. Let's use grey. So this 3-cell line here, because we know that there's either a 5 in that domino or that domino, there's no 5 on this line. Now, does that mean it needs to be extreme? By extreme, I mean, does it need to be 1, 2, 3 or 7, 8, 9? I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. If it wasn't, if we try and put 2, 3, 4 on there, the question in my mind is what happens to the extreme digit. So in this case, what happens to the 1? No, it doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work because now in this row, I need to put a 1 somewhere. So let's put it there. It doesn't matter where it goes. The point is the ren band it's on, the purple line it's on, is going to have to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ren band. And now in this row, we've only got 3 cells to put the 6, 7, 8 and 9 on. That won't work. Another way of thinking about that is to say, okay, these 6 digits are only selected from 5 different options, and therefore there must be a repeated digit in them. So, and that logic obviously would extend if we tried to make this 6, 7, 8. We'd have exactly this analogous problem with the 9 in the row. So right, so this is either 1, 2, 3 or 7, 8, 9, and that logic is completely rotationally symmetrical. So that is fascinating. Okay, so every grey line in this puzzle is an extreme triple, in the sense it's either 1, 2, 3 or 7, 8, 9. Now, what on earth does that mean? Does that mean, well, if we're betting people, are we betting they're all the same, or are we betting they alternate, or are we betting that they're opposite each other? I'm going to guess they're going to. I think I'm going to guess they're going to alternate. It doesn't feel to me like that is terribly likely. I feel like I'm going to run out of digits if I do that. Do I run out of digits, or is that a nonsense? What's going to happen there? Is that a problem or not? I'm not actually. I can't immediately prove in my brain that it's a problem. I might be able to prove it's a problem if I start pencil marking everything. Like, I'm now thinking, where does 9 go in the bottom row? So let's put it on this side. There's literally no way we could tell. So if these are all 1, 2, 3, and we put 9 on this side, then this becomes 9, 8, 7, 5, 6. So we've got to put a 4 in the bottom row, so that's going to live over there. I'm struggling to see why this breaks. I suppose, okay, so if we were in this paradigm, the other thing that's interesting I'm now suddenly spotting is because 4 is on this Renban, the 9 in this column couldn't be on this Renban, because then it wouldn't get as low as 4, because it would only be 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So that one, there must be a 9 up there, which makes this Renban 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 as well. So you'd get 1, 2, 3, you get a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple on this, in these 2x2s. I don't know why I'm doing this, by the way. This is, I think this is a foolish thing to do. But let me just think about it for a moment more. Does this work or not? I have a feeling now it might work. Now there's a 4 over here. Oh! No! No, it doesn't work. Good grief. That is not easy to see. That is not, well, it wasn't easy for me to see, but I have now seen it. I've seen why it doesn't work. Actually, if you haven't seen why it doesn't work, it's worth pausing the video, because it's not that difficult to see once you have the right thought. And I think it would give you pleasure to spot it. It's given me a bit of pleasure, although it's given me a bit of annoyance as well. So the critical question, for those of you who managed to do it, by the way, congratulations. The critical question is where we put 4 on in each row. And you can see in the top row, the only place for 4 is going to be in one of those 3 cells. But in column 1, the only place for 4 is in one of those 3 cells. So you have to put 4 in the corner. But if that logic is just completely symmetrical, so you've got to put 4 in that corner as well. And the fascinating thing about this, is that if you do this with 987 in grey, I bet you get exactly the same effect. Let's just see if we can instantly do that. Let's get rid of all our pencil marks. What a weird idea this is. So let's double click all the greys, fill those in with 789s, and guess which side we're going to put the 1 on. We don't know. I don't think it's going to matter, because the logic is going to be that let's put the 1s on this side. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we've now worked out means that because there's 6 on this string and there's 6 on this string, these Renbans can't have 1 on them. So the 1 must live in these cells. So this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the 6 in this row and the 6 in this column sits in the corner, and the 6 in this row and sits in the corner, and the 6s see each other across the diagonal. So it doesn't work. Okay. So do we just restart the puzzle then? Well, I think we will, but what we should just take stock of momentarily is what we have learnt, which I don't think is very much. We know there's a 5 in the middle. We know that the greys are, in fact, no, I'm going to keep things. I think I've learnt enough that it's perhaps worth recording. We know that there's a 5 in the middle. We know that each one of the grey strips is an extreme triple. And we know that the 4 grey strips are not the same. Which is unfortunately not the most massive deduction in the world, is it? Although there is still an issue here. Okay. Because whatever I put in that triple, on one side, either in those 3 cells or those 3 cells, I have to hide a 9 in the row. There has to be a 9 in row 9. Where's it going to go? Doesn't matter. Let's put it over here. So there is still going to be a sort of, there's a knock-on effect. I mean, if this was 987, we'd have to put a 1 in one of these corner Ren bands. So that's going to make a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quintuple. So you're always going to have... Yeah, okay. And then on the side that you put... So with 1, 2, 3, on the side that you put the 9 on, then that Ren band can't be a 7, 8, 9 Ren band. So we know it's extreme, but it couldn't be 7, 8, 9 because then you'd have to put 1, 2, 3 and 4 into those cells. So actually, there is something weird going on. In the sense that if you were in this paradigm, you would have to put 1, 2, 3 here. But obviously, if I put the 9 on this side, you'd have to put the 1, 2, 3 here. How is this ever getting disambiguated? And the reason that suddenly worries me is that what is it about this puzzle that breaks this symmetry, that turns high digits into low digits? Because it's not going to be these, because these exist sort of symmetrically around this diagonal. So the only thing that can do it is the penguin. And the penguin doesn't seem to me... The penguin's nearly symmetrical. Well, it's not. Actually, it's not. The penguin... this is a magic penguin that breaks symmetry somehow. But also, hang on. If I've gone 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3... And I know... Yeah, okay. And I know that on one side, I have to duplicate my extreme triple. So either that one and that one is the same, or that one and that one is the same. But I'm not then allowed to make these. So if I made those two the same, well, I've made these two the same. Sorry, I'm talking gibberish here. Well, I'm not talking gibberish, but I'm flitting around in my brain. If I make these two the same, which is what I have done, I can't make those both 1, 2, 3s as well. But I think that means I can make neither 1, 2, 3. Let me just try and prove that. If I do try and make a third 1, 2, 3 in these opposites, my problem I think is going to be here, which is going to force this to be a 1, 2, 3. And the reason I say that is that in this column I have to put a 4, which means this can't have a 9 on it, which means that has a 9 on it, which means this can't be 9, 8, 7. So that would... Yeah, okay, so these always pair up. So this is fascinating. It's absolutely mental. But basically what this means is that if you did work out these were at 1, 2, 3 triples, these are forced to be 7, 8, 9 triples opposite. And if you force these to be 7, 8, 9s, these are forced to be 1, 2, 3s. But remember, you could also have these two being 7, 8, 9, and then these would be 1, 2, 3. So, or you know, whichever way we could do it, these, so that these are the opposite. So we have no idea how to I've got no idea how. Why does this break then? Or why does it have any effect? Right, let's continue with this journey. And when we're doing this, some people will call this bifurcation, but I mean, I totally accept. Well, is it bifurcation though? I'm not sure it really is. I have learnt that this 1, 2, 3 pairing with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 between it exists somewhere in this puzzle. I just don't know which corner it's in. It could be in this one, could be in that one, could be in this one. I don't know, but it's in one of them. And I know also that the opposite grey cells are going to be a 7, 8, 9. Now, and I presume, although I might be wrong about this, yeah, I know I'm not wrong about this, the 7, 8, 9 must have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 purple line between them, because if I put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, these squares are selected from only 5 different digits, and there are 6 cells. So this must be where the 1 goes. Sorry, I'm now wondering, and this could be total gibberish, if that means that cell has to be a 1 and that cell has to be a 9. I've got to put a 1 in this row. I know that the 1 can't go on this rem band, so I know it goes in one of those 3 cells. But surely that logic applies exactly, sort of vice versa, mutatis mutandi, up column 9 as well. The 1 must be in one of these squares, and the only cell on this Ren band that simultaneously meets that criteria is there. So there is a 1 in the corner, and now I think about it, okay, I must be able to run that logic down here to put a 9 here. But yeah, okay, which I think this is right. I think these are a 1-9 pair, but of course this could be in any orientation. So we're not really, well, we're a little bit further on, given that we're exploring paradigms, but there is now 1 opposite a 9, either here and here, or here and here. And obviously the 9 could be up there and the 1 could be down there. We just don't know. So that means there's going to be a 6 down here, because we haven't put 6 in this row. There's going to be a 4 down there because we've not put 4 in this row. Oh, no. Well, yes. Yes and no. Oh, hang on a moment. Right. Yeah, okay. So I've worked out what's in those corners. I know what's in those corners as well. Bizarrely, because of our unfaithful friend SUDOKU, who sometimes raises his head above the parapet and gives us little snippets of information. Because look, by SUDOKU, the corner digit that sort of sees the different extremes, so this corner digit sees a 1, 2, 3 triple and sees a 7, 8, 9 triple, so it is a 4, 5 or a 6, but it's not a 5, so that cell is a 4 or a 6. But the same logic applies absolutely identically to that cell, because that's 7, 8, 9, that's a 1, 2, 3. And remember this ring that we've created, which may turn out to be in a different position, but it must be in the puzzle somewhere. So we're either going to have a 4, 6 here, or we're going to have a 4, 6 here. And that is very interesting indeed. For another reason, this time to do with a penguin. Oh my goodness me, Nahileon, where do you get this nonsense from? It's just ridiculous. Look, okay, so this arrangement that I've got in the grid is probably the correct one, okay? Because what would happen if we shifted this potential arrangement of digits clockwise or anti-clockwise 90 degrees? Well, if we have the 4-6 pair on this positive diagonal, that means in the central box I've got to put 4 and 6 on green lines. Now that should immediately be ringing alarm bells if you're used to doing German whispers, because 4s and 6s have very few partners. Now in this puzzle, that's not quite true. 4 has lots of friendly partners, which it didn't used to have. Well, no, actually it's got... No, 4 normally only has the partner of 9, but in this puzzle it can also partner the 1. But 6 has exactly the same number of partners that it's always been allowed to have. 6 can only be with a digit that's 5 away from it, which is 1. So how could you put 6 on this... How many sides are there on that thing? 1, 2, 5. How could you put 6 in one of those pentagon cells? Well, let's try it. We'll put 6 here. That means this cell has to meet the criteria of being 5 away from 6, has to be a 1, so does that. You'd get 2 1s in the box, and that's going to be the case, because this is a pentagon ring. There are always going to be 2 cells that have to meet the criteria of 6. So I could have got this right at the start, but I didn't think there was any real constraint on the penguin, because I thought it was a soft constraint, or a softening of the constraint. But for the high digit 6, it's still the same constraint. So in this box, the 6 is in one of those squares, and therefore this diagonal does not have 4 6 on it. And if it doesn't have 4 6 on it, we are closing in on the correct orientation of the puzzle. We know that, well, the thing we don't know now is whether the 1s, 2s and 3s are up there. But we know that we need to be in an orientation where the 4 and the 6, in other words, the 1s, 2s, 3s, 7s, 8s and 9s are looking into these corners, making these the 4 6 pair, because if they were looking into these squares and making these the 4 6 pair, we'd have 2 6s on the positive diagonal. Good grief. So the penguin has already done some work. Now, what on earth is it though? I'm just trying to see if I can visualize what the problem is with... Because one way round, either this is a problem, or moving these to be 7, 8, 9s is a problem. And how on earth do either of those things create a problem? I don't think I know. Maybe we have to pencil mark these 2 by 2s in these boxes. But I think these green lines are symmetrical as well. So in other words, if we were to flip the puzzle round, we're not going to change what happens on these green lines. So the only thing that can disambiguate this puzzle is the green penguin. But I don't understand how I'm meant to know how on earth that works. I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't see how it can affect this. let's just put this in for a moment. If that's 6, 7, 8, 9, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, what do we know about those two squares then? We know, well, we know that this green line operates like a normal German whisper because they're 3 high digits, and the high digits are always going to be suffering or subject to the constraint that the digit next to them on the line has to be 5 away. Because obviously we can't add a number to 6, 7, 8 or 9 and get a total that's at most 5 unless we can have negative numbers in the puzzle. Do not even think about it, Nahileon. So these two digits are low. And this is a normal whispers line, so they are 1s, 2s and 3s. They are not 4. Because if this was 4, both of those squares would have to be 9. If that was 4, both of those squares would have to be 9. So these are 1s, 2s and 3s. Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. That tells me nothing. Here it's going to be more complicated because here these are low digits. So that means that, oh, I see, although it's flanked by low digits as well. So if this was a low digit, it would have to, oh, that's weird. No, this still works. This is still problematic. In the sense that I think this still operates like a normal whispers line as well. Because if we imagine the softened constraint, which is that 2 adjacent digits sum to at most 5, well, the only way, given we can't use 1, 2 or 3 in this cell or this cell, the only way that's going to work is if we make that 4. But if we make that 4, what do both of these cells have to be to fulfill the constraint? They both have to be 1. So this, in fact, has to be a high digit, and so does this. And this high digit cannot be 6 because that would need double 1 on the line. So these squares exactly mirror. This is weird. They exactly mirror their counterparts. So we haven't actually, as expected, we've not disambiguated the puzzle 1 iota. Although, hang on, maybe I can do it with the fact there must be a 1 and a 9 on the diagonal. Is that somehow? 6 is on this diagonal. Good grief. Okay, so that becomes a 7-8 pair. So that becomes a 6-9 pair. Well, the 6 will need to be next to a 1, so there's a 1 in one of those two cells. But I don't think this is doing anything, is it? I'm not certain, but I'm not seeing it. What would Brian Boitano do if he was here right now? He'd that's what Brian Boitano do. When Brian Boitano was in the Olympics skating for the gold. I'm sure most of that song is inappropriate for a Cracking the Cryptic video. Wow. Okay. Right, we can do something, I think, with the penguin, actually, or maybe not with the penguin, but with the pentagon in the penguin's body. Because, how's this logic? Is this correct? If the central box, what are these two digits? And the answer is, I have not got a Scooby-Doo. But I know one of them is a 6, and the other one is a low digit. It's whatever of 2, 3, and 4 is not used in box 7. So these two digits are a high digit, by which I mean a digit higher than 5, and a low digit, by which I mean a digit lower than 5. But that means on this pentagon here, which is a ring of whisper line, I've got to put 3 high digits. I've got to put 7, 8 and 9. But because for high digits the constraint still holds as if it's a German whispers line, because you could never, for example, put 7 next to anything apart from a low digit, but you can't put 7 next to 8 because 7 and 8 add up to far too, they definitely add up to more than 5. So 7 is always going to be next to a low digit on both of its sides. The same is true of 8, the same is true of 9. So this ring alternates polarity, and that means it operates like a whispers line. So we should highlight it. So those 3 digits, which could be high or low, have to have the same polarity. Those digits have to have the same polarity. I'm not sure I'm very comfortable with that incredibly horrible selection of colours, but let's go with it for a moment. So what does that mean? I don't know. I can't put 4. There you go. Okay, that is useful. Believe it or not. Okay, as this is a ring, where would I put... oh, no, 4 could go with... oh, hang on, I might be wrong. No. No, I'm not wrong. You can't put 4. You can't put 4 in the yellow or purple. Because if you do, let's just try and put it in. How could we ever make it work? We know those 2 digits are opposite polarity. So they have to both be high, and 5 away from 4, they'd have to both be 9. Right. So that means as 4 can't go in this, 4 goes in one of those squares, and this becomes a 4-6 pair. Now obviously we still have to bear in mind, well actually that logic is completely, that is completely true. Whether or not these digits swap round, that logic that puts 4 and 6 is always going to hold, because it's symmetrical. So there's all right. So now those squares are not 4, which means these squares are not 2s and 3s. So one of these is a 4 with a 9, and one of them is a 1, which can go with any high digits. So there is now definitely a 9 in one of those squares, and there's definitely a 1 in one of these squares, at least one of these squares, at least one of these squares. And right, now how about the penguin's beak and feet? Because now I've suddenly realised these can't be high, can they? Ah. Oh my goodness me. Right. This is... not everything I've done is wrong. Everything I've done is logical, but it's not right. This arrangement is not right. Ah, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful idea. I mean, it's completely and utterly bonkers. It is bonkers. Right. Look at each of these pairs of which are sort of on these equilateral triangles. So we've got the feet, and the beak of the penguin. Now, what do we know about this digit here? We know one of these digits is high. In other words, in order to meet the constraint, either along this line or this line, the only thing that this could be is a low digit. So that means this digit is a 1, 2, 3 or a 4, but it's not a 1, 2 or a 3. So it's a 4. That's absolutely forced in this. When we've got these 1s, 2s, 3s here, this digit is forced to be a 4, but so's this, by exactly the same logic. And these can't both be 4, because how can we fill in their dominoes now? We know that one of these digits is high, so it needs to be a 9, and one of those digits is high, so it needs to be a 9, because it needs to be 5 away from 4. That's not going to work. So now let's just check this, because if I switch this and this to being high digits, yeah, it's fine, isn't it? Because now these can be any low digit. That is weird, and in fact that's going to become a 4, because this is going to be a 1, 2, 3. This is completely brilliant. It's completely brilliant. But it's going to necessitate... I don't know, I'm not going to start again, but I'm going to have to completely change a lot of these pencil marks, because what we've just learnt is that the correct orientation is to have 7s and 8s and 9s in these cells. So let's do it slowly. Those have to be 7s, 8s and 9s. This, therefore, has to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one. This has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 down here. And we know that's not 5. We know because the 1 in this column needs to be down here and the one in this row needs to be over here, there is a 1 in the corner. So we can take 1s out of these squares. This all becomes total nonsense. We need to copy this instead. So they become a 7-8 pair. These become a 6-9 pair. These become a 1, 2, 3 triple. And now we've corrected this bottom part of the grid, except this pencil mark's wrong, because it's the 6 in this row that needs to be in one of those cells. So we've got to do that. That means it's going to be the 4 that has to be in one of these cells, but we need to correct all of this in the top right. We need to put 6 in this column. We know that's a 4, 6 in the corner by Sudoku. We know one of those squares is a 6. And it's going to be one of these squares is a 4. But let's try and prove that to ourselves. So this 7, 8, 9 has to be a 1, 2, 3 triple. This 7, 8, 9 has to be a 1, 2, 3 triple. We know that the 1, 2, 3 triple has to be divided up by a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 quintuple. We know the 9 has to live in the corner, exactly the same analogous logic to what forced the 1 in the corner down here. These digits now are not 7 and 8, they are 2 and 3. These digits are the equivalent low digits of 1 and 4. These digits are the equivalent high digits of 7, 8 and 9. The 4 and the 6 can stay the same, because we know that we need to be in this orientation, because we needed the 4 and the 6 to be on the other diagonals, so that we didn't have a problem with 6 on this diagonal and having 2 6s on it. So I think now we are where we want to be, he says. Right, yes, and this is great. This is great, because now let's investigate the beak of the penguin again. Because one of those is high, this is a low digit, but now it can be anything. The same is true here. There's no 1, 2, 3 triple to interfere with either of these cells, but this is not the same here. That toe of the penguin can now only be a 4, which means one of these squares. No, I know both of those. They are a 1, 9 pair, because the 4 with the low digits has to be with a low digit that adds up to no more than 5, which the only option is a 1. So that is a 1, 9 pair. 4, I can place it up here. That's a 1. That's a 4. Now, if that's a 4 on a whispers line, going to a high digit, we know it must go to 9. So 9 is now in one of those two cells by our old friend Sudoku. Sorry, pregnant pause while I try and work out what this means. That is not a 4. Okay. This 1 has to go with any high digit. We just need these to be 5 apart, and they are always going to be. So there's no hard constraint now, really. Now we've pencil marked this. So I want to say this can't be 4 now. Is that correct? If that's 4, I could make that one the 9. But then this one would have to be a 1. Yeah, that doesn't work. So that's got to be a 1, 2, or a 3. And is this 4? Okay, so now the symmetry's definitely broken. It's been broken by this foot, and it's getting some digits up here. And I don't think I can pull the same trick in box 7. Can we do... We know the pentagon is a ring, don't we? So surely Surely, said I, that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. 7. Yeah. Because this pentagon operates like a normal whispers line, where do I put 7 on it? And the answer is wherever I put the 7 in the pentagon, it must be flanked by a 1 and a 2, because we need digits that are at least 5 away. But I know the 1 is in one of those squares, so the 7 must be in one of those squares. It must be next to the... And that means that the 2, if that was the 7, that would be the 2. If that was the 7, that would be the 2. So the 2 is in one of those cells. Now, can I run that logic the other way round? 3 must be next to 8 and 9, because I need digits that are 5 away. So the 3 needs to be next to the 9, just as the 7 needed to be next to the 1. So those two squares are a 3-7 pair, and those two squares are the other digits, 2 and 8. Good grief. So we've actually... Yeah, okay, so that's not 2, that's not 2. I've got a 1-3 pair in this column. That's not 8. That's not 3. That's not 3. That's not 7. That's not 9 by Sudoku. That's not 9. That's not 1. Bobbins, it doesn't seem to disambiguate things. That's not 9. Alright, let's try and do some Sudoku. Let's try and do some Sudoku, he says, and then fails to do anything clever at all. I can't see it. Sorry, I'm sure many of you are shouting at me now, but I can't see anything here at all. I've got to... Right, I know that digit is a middly digit, I'm going to say, by Sudoku. And that's because if we look at this row, I know one of those digits is a low digit because one of them is high. We know we're alternating along the pentagon. So one of those is either a 1 or a 3 by the looks of it. So those 4 cells there contain the digits 1, 2 and 3 in row 6. And that digit sees 7, 8 and 9. So that digit is 4, 5 or 6. Which I don't think is going to be... Okay, the same thing. Right, that digit is... Oh no, that's great. That is great. That is a 6. Wow. Okay, so it is Sudoku that now comes to our rescue. It's the same principle in row 5. These two digits are... You see, they've got opposite colour. Therefore, if this was 9, this would have to be a low digit. If this was 8, this would have to be the low digit. So one of these digits is a 1 or a 2. That combines with the 1, 2, 3 to make a virtual triple in the row. So this square is also a middly digit, but this time, whoopsie, it can't be 4 or 5. So that is 6. Oh, that's great. Look. That's getting that digit done. And it's getting this digit done. And this one's much more interesting because 6 can only go with 1 on a whisper. Oh, but no, that's good. That's a 3. That's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 2. Whoa. Okay. Now, does that mean I know what these are? I think it probably does, but I can't be sure. That could be a 3, couldn't it? If that's a 3, then 2 plus 3 is 5 or less. It's at most 5, yeah, so that would work. So that could be 3 and that could be 9, or that could be 7 and that could be 1, and 2 plus 1 is only equal to 3, and that's less than 5, and that's fine. Ah! Oh golly, that was so exciting for a moment, and now it's just died. That digit's got to be a high digit. It's a similar thing. Look, we've got the middly digits and we've got the low digits, so that's a high digit and it's not 9. So that's 7 or 8. Now, can we keep pulling this trick? He says, a little desperately. I don't know. 6. Okay, 6 in this box, look, is restricted. It's in one of 2 places. Right, okay, so that means we've not yet put a 6 in column 5. It's not there, and it's not there, and it's not equal to 1. So there is a 6 in one of 2 places in box 2. That digit is a middly digit, I want to say. It sees 2, it sees 1 and 3, and it sees 7, 8, 9, so that's middly. Let's find the right things to type in. 4, 5, and 6. And I know one of these is a 6, so that's... I don't think it's going to be good enough. Can we get... Where else is it going to be then? It's going to be... I see. Yeah, it's the same with this cell. So I've got to try and remember symmetry. There is still a lot of symmetry here. So the fact I've got those 2 digits should have made me think about those 2 digits because the grid is so rotationally symmetrical. Now, here you can see this digit sees 1, 2, 3. Well, it also seems to see 7, 8, 9. So that is a middly digit, and it's 5 or 6 because it can't be 4. Now the same should be true for this cell. That... Oh, I say that, but I don't know that that's true, actually. No, it is true, because these 2 must have a high digit between them, so that's going to pair off with this, complete the high digits for the row, and that digits can't be 1, 2, or 3 either, so that's a middly digit, and that's so therefore 5 or 6. Which I'm sure is very important. For the following reason. Come on, brain, think of the reason. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I don't know. Do I know? No, I don't think I do. Can I? I've got a 5, 6 pair here. Does this somehow, if they're 6s, that's 4. If they're 5s, we don't know. Okay, so that's not a sensible line of inquiry. Could it be... Oh, I can place 1. I can place 1 in this box by weirdness. Right, 1 by Sudoku is in one of those cells. But I know that this Renban line, this purple line, has a 6 on it. So it can't have a 1 on it as well. It's only 5 cells long. If we go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, we don't get to 1, so 1 is there. Which might be important. 9! 9! I can just do 9 by pencil marking. Simon, do your Sudoku. Okay. Is this helping me? Please help me. Don't know. 2? Maybe 2s. Let's double click 2s. 4s. 4 is a mildly restricted digit actually. In this box, look. 4 has to be in one of 2 places. Now, what we really need to do somehow is to disambiguate these 4s and 6s. How do you do that? Has anybody got any good ideas? And would they mind just quickly jumping in a time machine to help me understand that? Right, do I know 1? Look. Yeah, it's the same on this Renban. That Renban's got 6 on it as well, so it can't have 1 on it. So there's a 1 in one of these 2 cells. Now, can it be on the diagonal? If it was, it would be hugely powerful. Then we would get 1, 9. There'd be a 1 here. I don't know. That all seems fairly fine, doesn't it? I don't think we can do that. Or I don't think I can rule it out from here. If the 1 was here, on the other hand, that would be the 1. So 1 is going to be an important digit in box 1. But the thing I'm quite likely to be missing as well is some implication of these lines. Like 9... No, 9 can go with 2 or 3. 7 and 8? Well, if that was 7, it could only go with 2 here. 7, 2. Why doesn't that work? The answer is, I don't know. Wow. I don't even know where to look, to be honest. Is there something to be said about... I always know there's a 5 on one of these lines, don't I? But I don't think I know anything about 5s. Apart from this 5. I certainly know about that 5. Nine. Can there be a 9? No. Okay, so same thing again. There can't be a 9 on this line because it's got a 4 on it. So there is a 9 in one of those two cells. Okay. Right, this is a bit of a subtlety, but that cell I'm going to allege is a 1 or a 9. Because if it wasn't, if we tried to put 1 and 9 here, they would match off with their friends down in box 9, and the only places we could put 1s and 9s now on the negative diagonal would be in those 3 cells, and that cell cannot be both 1 and 9, so that doesn't work. So I need that cell to be a 1 or a 9, and that gives me a 1-9 pair on this diagonal, along with a 5, along with a 4 and a 6. So this diagonal now needs 2, 3, 7 and 8 to complete it. Right, let's put that in. 2, 3, 7, 8. And get rid of things we can get rid of, which seems to be literally nothing. That is quite stunningly annoying. Oh, really? Okay, let's abandon that line of inquiry. Sorry, I thought that was going to be a clever thing to note, and it just isn't. What else could we talk about here? Can we get some sort of disambiguation over the following digit, he says, desperately trying to work out what digit it might be that we could do anything with at all. This column, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 8. So there has to be a high digit in one of these squares and also a middly digit. And if it was that cell that was the middly digit, it would have to be 5. That would make this a 6, this a 6. Oh right, there's something going on with 6s. That didn't work. That did not work. 5. Let me just try and understand why that didn't work. It didn't work. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, it's this digit, isn't it? So when I pencil marked the 6 into these cells, which was good logic built around this like funny arrangement here, I didn't appreciate that made that cell a 5. The annoying thing about that is, well, it gets rid of 5 here. I'm not sure it does anything. Oh no, it does. Look, 5, 5 by Sudoku, this is a 5. Aha! So it does do something. Now, Now that by pencil marks, that's become a 6 because we knew one of those two was a 6. And that means that cell's a 4 and that cell's a 6. Come on. Baby, light my fire. Come on, what does that mean? That means this little cell. What does that mean? Is this... I've got a 7-8 pair. I've got a 1-9 pair. I think I know that digit. That's a 3 by Sudoku. Which means that one is not a 3. That one is not a 3. That one is not a 2. There's a 2 in this row. That one is not a 2. 3, 4, 7, 8. That's 3, 4, 7 or 8. It's not 3. So it's 4, 7 or 8. 4, 7 or 8 here. This digit's known. 1, 2. I've not put 4 in the box. That's got to be a 4. So that's got to be a 4. Aha, we are actually making slow but steady progress now. It's very, very exciting. This is a 6, 8, 9 triple with that cell at the bottom. Okay, so these are high digits. So this is 7, 8 or 9. It's not 8 because it sees 8 there. Oh, I see. So I get a 7, 9 pair here. I've got to... What do I have to do now? That's not 4. So I've got... These two digits seem very restricted. The positive diagonal is basically done, absent these two pairs. If I could get this digit to be 7, I would know which way round these go. So why is this... If this was 8, that would be 6, 9. That would be 8. That would be 7. That would be 9. And we go off on a good lift trail of destruction. I don't want to do that. Let's... what should we do here? What is the simple deduction that's going to finish this puzzle off? I think we are only one deduction away. Because if I, for example, if I can understand the high-lows in this ring, all of a sudden we're going to be in real business. That would help me as well. So I know that there's a 1 high and 1 low between these two cells. I know these two cells are different. Sometimes when you get pairs in a diagonal Sudoku, like we know those two digits are the same, you should always check those two other corners of a square that would be made by these two corners. Because this cell, obviously it can't be 1 or 9 now, because if it was a 1 or a 9, it would eliminate that digit from the negative diagonal altogether. Here it doesn't seem to do anything. But it's that sort of thing that we might have to think about here. Although it's very hard to see how to generate another pair on this diagonal. We could generate a 2-8 pair by making this not equal to 7. Which would make either that one or that one equal to 7. Why is... well, yeah, that would... So if this can't be 3 for some reason... That would do it. If that's 3, that forces this to be 8, forces this to be 7. It would give us a 2-8 pair on the other diagonal. Right. So if this can't be 3... Oh, hang on, have I done that right? If this can't be 3... I'm not sure I have, actually. Because if that's not 3, it's not putting any pressure on that digit. If that is 3, that's 8, that's 7... No, that does do it. If that's 3, that's 8, that's 7, that becomes a 2-8 pair. And that, no, it wouldn't give us that digit, but it would be interesting. So why is this digit a 3? That's the question I'm now asking myself. I've got nothing. I can see one of those two squares is a 2. That's not the same thing at all. Good grief. I mean, what on earth am I meant to look at here? Well, it's the same thing there, isn't it? That there is pressure on this. If this turns out to be 7, that has to be 2. Or 7, 8. I'm not understanding this at all, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I think that there's going to be something fairly straightforward, but I don't know. I don't know what that is. How do we do this? How do we do this? If this is or is it to do with the fact that you've got to make that these are always different in the sense that they're of opposite polarity? So does that mean anything useful? Well, right, okay, I have found a way of making that cell pair up with that cell. Here we go. This is not easy to see, but I've spotted something. That cell is not a 7. And it's not too difficult to see why. If that's a 7, you can't put 8 into either of those cells. Because if that's a 7, that's an 8, and that's an 8, and neither of these cells is now able to be an 8. So that's not 7, but I think the interesting point about that is that is 7 now in this row. It seems to be the only place 7 can go. And when we write the 7 in there, not only do we get rid of it from here, we get rid of it from there. And that's a much more exciting place to get rid of it, because now that is a 2-8 pair. So that is not 8. This cell is not 2 or 8. So I've now got a 3-7 pair. Now we need to check our squares. Look, so let's check the corners of squares. 2 and the 8 as well. No, the problem is we know the digits that are in the squares. So let me think about this. What's this done? It has. Oh, okay. Let's pencil mark these digits. I suppose these have got to be 5, 6, and 8. 6, 8. I don't think. I know there's an 8 down here. So that's not an 8. But that's not disambiguating this triple. This has suddenly got very, very difficult. I think we're going to have to maybe resort to pencil marking everything. What are these 2 digits? These 2 digits are... Oh, is that a 4? Hang on, where's 4 in that row? Ah, got another Sudoku. There we go, that's going to finish it. So there we go. We got a 4 here. No 4 up here. Sorry, I just didn't see that. Although I'm not actually sure that has finished it. Has it finished? No, I'm not sure it has. Oh dear. Right, these squares are 1, 2, 3, and 5. So I know there's a low there. There's a low there. There's one of these is low. Oh, 5. Look. Yeah, in this box, 5 is looking at that square, so that becomes a 6. So that's not a 6. This is not a 6. No. Ah! I know there's a 5 in this domino. This 6 is... Well, okay, so that's become a 5-8 pair. It's not enough. I've got a 7 or a 9 here, a 7 or a 9 here, and that's making a triple there. Right, but if this is a 5-8 pair, can we do... Have we got some sort of triplage or something going on in this column? 2s, 3s, 5s, 7s and 8s onto this square. So that's not able to be 7 or 8, so that's 2, 3 or 5. No, don't think that's good enough. Roll. Okay, here's a small point. These two digits here are consecutive, I think, because if they weren't, there's a problem. If we try and make that 2 and that 7, for example, well, where do I put? I can put 8. I have to put 8 on the line, and that would mean I need to put 7 on the line, which I couldn't put on it. And it's going to be the same the other way round. You know, if we try and make that 3 and this 8, then I've got to put 2 on this line, and I can't put 3 on it. So those two squares are a 2-3 pair or a 7-8 pair, which means that I see whatever they are totally. Well, maybe it doesn't totally fix the diagonal, but it does an awful lot of damage to it. So if this is 2-3, that's 2-3. This would be 4-5. That would be a 6 in the corner. That would be 2-3. Whoa. Oh, ew. That would be a 7. Oh, that works. Alright, let's try it the other way. If that's 7-8, what then happens? That doesn't do... Oh no, okay. Oh, so then that becomes 7-8. That becomes 5-6. That becomes 4 in the corner. So it just goes the other way round. Hang on. So if that's 7-8, that becomes 7-8. That becomes 7-8. And that becomes 3. So that's so strange. So it's sort of, look, if I highlight those cells for a moment, let's do them in 2 colours. I'll use my garish green. So one way round, these 2 digits go here and then there and force 6 into the corner. The other way round, they go here. If this is 7-8, they go here and then they can't go there. So in this row, they go there. So that all means, but unfortunately I don't think it matters, that this box up here is going to either not have 7s or 8s or not. Right, these 2 cells, let's just pencil mark these 2 cells. This one can't be 4, 5, 6 or 9. So that is 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. Let me just stare at that for a minute in case there's something else we can delete from that cell. I'm not seeing anything. Alright, maybe that's better. This one's worse, I think. I think this has even more options. This one, 2, 3. Oh, 5's on the line. Okay, so at least it's not 5 as well as everything else. 6 is down there, so 7, 8, 9. Really? So both those digits have 5 options. Okay, this is not looking good, is it? So if that's 7, 8, that becomes 7, 8. Both of these lose their ability to be 7, 8. That gets 3 in here. So that's then either 2 or 9. That's either 7, 8, 3, 1 or 2. Don't quite see how that's resolving itself. If that's 2, 3, we get 2, 3 here, 2, 3 here. That's 7 then. So 2, 3. So either way, so that becomes 8 or 9. That becomes 1 or 8. 2, 3. That's 7. That becomes 8, and that becomes 9 then. Sorry, just trying to work this out. Okay, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That is not 2, 3, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I've just broken that in my head. That is almost impossible to see. Why? I'm just going to go through it once more time in my head, if you don't mind. And if it doesn't work, I'll then explain it. But I'm absolutely certain there is a better way to see this. I just don't quite know. I haven't spotted that. So if that's 2, 3, that becomes 7. So you sort of, the moment you specify these digits, you effectively know either these 3 or these 3 in box 1. Is one way to think about it, because whatever you specify for these 2 digits obviously fixes this one, and then it fixes the coloured triple. But if this is 2, 3, that then becomes the digits 2, 3 and 7. But this 7 means that's an 8. So this is, right, that's how the symmetry is broken. Right, that's interesting actually. I've now spotted something else, which sort of explains why 2, 3 is wrong. And it's because if this is 7, 8, this becomes a 3. And when we look at the symmetrical counterpart to this cell, which is this cell, it doesn't get determined. It gets reduced to 1 or 2 only. Whereas when this is 2, 3 and this becomes 7, that actually gets determined. So it's the it's the difference in the restriction on the green line that as it applies to high digits compared to low digits. So this being a 9 puts very little pressure on this digit. But this digit, I don't know why it can't be 6 or 9, so it's forced to be 7 or 8. So it has been restricted further. I don't know if that's restrictable further. I can't quite see it. But I can see, if this is 2, what happens here is we get 2, 3, 7 and 8. Now, that means this square is forced to be a 9. But that makes this square a 1. And that makes this square a 9. But we know that this square, unless I've messed this up royally, is an 8. So we get a 9 here and an 8 here in different colours. And that's not going to work. These have to be the same. I suppose the other way of thinking about that is if you make that 2, 3, that is definitely 8. So that's definitely 1. So that's definitely 9, but I've just proved that that has to be 9 as well. So you get 2 9s in box 1. So it definitely doesn't work. Let me show you it very slowly. So if this becomes a 2, 3 pair, I don't think we know the order of them, but let's just put 2 and 3 in. You can see that becomes 7, that becomes 8. This square now sees everything, so must be a 9. But if this is a 2, 3 pair, that's become 8. That's become 1, that's become 9, and these are not in different colours. That is so complicated, I cannot tell you. It really is. But on the other hand, and I'm sure that there is a better way of seeing that as well. How long have I got? Oh, goodness me. I've been going 1 hour and 23 minutes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I hadn't realised that at all. Literally, I lose track of time like you wouldn't believe. And this is your Boxing Days I'm consuming as well. Good. Right, so I think we're going to have to use this in the absence of anything better. I can see it, I did see it. It's not, I wouldn't class it as bifurcation because it is visualizable, but I do totally accept that in a puzzle that has been full of the most absolute majesty in terms of logic, that is a very difficult thing to see. And I'm nervous that I'm doing Nahileon a disservice by using this, because there is almost certainly going to be something rather beautiful that I haven't been able to spot, and I feel terrible about that if that's true. It might not be true. I mean, is it likely that this step is required? You recognise that these are consecutive. You realise they have to go in these digits. You realise this digit gets determined. Whatever you put in here does determine this digit. Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, I could believe that it was a step, because whatever this is, once you realise they're consecutive, it basically fills this diagonal in a very neat way. Doesn't fill the 4s and the 6s, but it fills these cells. And then you can investigate the effect on those cells. So it could be right. I'm not certain. But what we know is that this is 7 and 8. So I'm going to put that in. So that's 7, that's 8, that's 8, that's 5. Now the question will be 5, 8. That becomes a 6, look. So 6, yeah, 6 goes in the corner. That's 6 in the corner. It doesn't get a song. It doesn't have a ring to it, does it? But I'm I'm welcoming that. 7 and 8 here means this is a 5. So we now know, because each of these rings has 5 on it, that must be a 5-6 pair now. That must have 5 on it, so that's fixing this as a 2. So we could take 2 out of that. There's an absolute storm going on outside just at the moment. I always get terrified about things like power cuts at this moment. Don't think negative thoughts, Simon. 6, 5 come out of this. That's become 7, 8. That seems to mean that square's a 4, which makes that a 3. Oh, that's good. That makes that a 5, that a 4. So this looks like it's got to be a 2-3 pair now, which may not be resolved. And in order to be consecutive, we need to have a 5 on this, don't we? So that's a load of digits. That's a 5 and a 6 using the power of this 5. 6 goes here in box number 2. Okay, and now we finally disambiguate the pentagon using the power of 8. 8 makes this a 2, which means this scallop cell is the opposite polarity, so it must be high, which means this is low. That's 3, that's 7, that's 8. Is that done the bottom somehow? No. What? How could it not have done? I don't understand. Okay, so there must be more to do in the rows then. 2 comes out of these squares. 2 comes out of this square. 8 goes into this square. 9, 7 all get filled in. 3 comes out of this square. I wanted that to be a 3, and it's not turned out to be. 1 comes out of those squares. And still that 2 there doesn't allow this to resolve, because whether that's 2 or 3, those 2 squares will not add up to as much as 6, so they are still valid. Okie dokie. Alright, so I think we've got to continue along the diagonal. That becomes a 1. That becomes a 3. Oh, I see. Right, that gets me a 3 and a 2 over there. That does at least do a little bit more Sudoku-like work. Okay, so 1 is not in here anymore. Or 3. That's not 3. Or 2. What's this not? It's a 7, 8, 9 triple, so that has become a 2. That becomes a 1. This becomes a 3, 5, which means this is 1, 2, 3. That becomes a 2. The 5 down here does some good work. This has got to be an extreme digit, because otherwise this Renban couldn't be filled. So there's probably a better way of doing that, but I can see that's got to be 9. And these 2 squares are now a 7, 8. 7, 8 pair, that's no use. So... oh, this 7. Thank goodness for that. I was looking at this thinking, how does this... I don't want a deadly pattern in my puzzle. That would not be a happy thing. Oh, and look, the 3 here is lovely. That can't be next to 7. So that's got to be 8, and that's going to do the final work, I think. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Let's click tick. Yay! An hour and a half. Well, I'm not very surprised. Antimatter by Nahileon, it turns out, was quite difficult. Sorting out what was going on with the penguin, sorting out how the symmetry broke. There was that absolutely stellar step halfway through the solve, was it, where we worked out that the penguin's feet and beak determine the orders of the 3, 2, 1s and the 7, 8, 9s. I absolutely love that. I love things like that you could work out the orientation of the grid in terms of the 4s and 6s by realising how the corners worked. I mean, this is a puzzle of just immense quality. I'm not going to deny for a moment it's very hard. It was very hard. And I'm still unconvinced that I spotted the intended way to disambiguate that final negative diagonal, but at least I got through it, and I think I did it logically. and I really, really enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. Let me know if you had a go. Let me know if you had a good Christmas. I hope you all did. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.